also means that yet another convoy makes port.
Well, the Germans first started coming into the Gulf of Mexico on the 4th of May, 1942. They had been along the east coast of the United States since February of 1942 and was devastating our shipping, and we had virtually no defense. These Americans must not know the war is on. Their lights are still all on.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America.
You see, in Europe, they'd been in war for 2.5 years. In the Gulf of Mexico, there wasn't even anticipation of a war. And then suddenly, in December of 1941, we got thrust into the war because of the attack on Pearl Harbor.
Flash, Washington. The White House announces Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor.
Immediately, the Coast Guard went around and started analyzing from their records and from actual observations how many pleasure boats, for instance, would be available to help patrol the Gulf of Mexico.
I think it took us a while to get prepared, to realize what was going on and to get organized. You know, tactics that we would later employ that helped us fight back against U-boats took a while to get in place.
So one of the reasons why the Germans were to succeed so quickly is because we were operating under peacetime conditions. Even the lighthouses and all of the navigation aids and everything was still lit up, just like in peacetime.
The U-boats were very damaging, so they sank 56 ships in the Gulf of Mexico alone, and those all contained supplies that were badly needed. U-166 is a very special story to us in that you know, there's a lot of documentation about the U-boat. It is here, it still lies in the Gulf of Mexico and was discovered fairly recently in 2001. And there's still a lot of mystery surrounding the U-166.
What happened was, on the 1st of August 1942, an airplane left Homa. There was a grass strip in Homa. No runways, just a mowed grass. And there was an airplane that belonged to the Coast Guard that was sent out on patrol. And they went out to patrol to look for German U-boats. But when they got offshore, about 18 miles south of Terrebonne Parish, they got offshore, they saw a submarine sitting in the water, a German submarine. So they made a pass on it, they dropped a depth charge bomb, the submarine disappeared, oil came up from the bottom, and they took credit for sinking the German submarine. However, that's not what happened, because later on we proved that the U-166 sank the WWII, and the escort vessel that was escorting the WWII came around and sank the U-boat, and that's what happened. So it took 58 years to prove it, then it took another 10 years before the Navy would believe me. Then it took another 5 years before they got me to the Pentagon and gave me a recognition for it.
A testament of just how close the battle came to the shores of Alabama, a shocking fact many Americans never knew about.
Yeah, that's sort of the mystery that you know, still surrounds the U-166. Is there's still some research published out there that, you know, credits the sinking of 166 to that aircraft.
But there was no place for the airplanes to land, so they only patrolled in the daytime. The submarines, the German submarines in the daytime, sat on the bottom of the Gulf of Mexico doing nothing. Everybody would go to sleep, they'd turn on a couple of red lights and everybody would go to sleep because they're working all night long. They're patrolling, looking for targets and so forth. So everybody's in bottom of the ocean in 200 feet of water, just going sound asleep. So in the evening, right after sunset, they would surface and very carefully look around to see if there's any airplanes or any kind of patrol vessels or anything, and then they would go hunting. But very few attacks were made before, say, 10 or 11 o'clock at night. On the back of a ship, they would put a big cannon so that it could shoot behind the ship. As soon as the ship started being chased by a submarine, of course, they'd do 2 or 3 things. Number one, they would turn the ship away from the submarine. So instead of having a target that's 500 feet easier to hit, they would have one that's only 66 feet wide. So they would turn the stern toward the submarine, and then the crew with the gun on the back of the ship would start shooting at the submarine. See, if the submarine gets hit just once in the right place, he's out of the water, because he can't submerge if he gets a hole in the submarine, of course. So it's very dangerous for a submarine to be surfaced and somebody shooting at it.
The U.S. response was pretty effective once we actually, took the steps necessary, which was, most importantly, instituting a convoy system to protect and to escort those supply vessels.
One of the British historians told me, he says, "You Yanks are like tea bags. You don't know your own strength until you're in hot water." So we grew quickly, even before we had our own patrols. We grew quickly as we started taking precautions to keep the Germans from sinking our ships.